So I am just going to share the exact frameworks that I used, the problems that I faced and how I solved them. And my hope is that you can take that and either apply the frameworks to figure out how you might get started in freelancing, which is actually section one, identifying your monetizable skill set, and then your one-liner, talking about pricing yourself. So you can actually turn this into a business instead of just a skill that you're interested in. Finding your first clients, and then talking about the Freelance Sales Blueprint course. And my goal with our talk today is to give you a foundation, hopefully a little bit of inspiration as well. But if I can't inspire you, I can at least give you some information that you can use with your business. What we're going to be talking about today, I call this talk Quit Like a Freelancer because I left my full-time job to go freelance. And to give you a quick bit about me, as Jay mentioned, I wrote the 50 Laws of Freelancing, but I actually started my freelance business in 2017 writing for growing companies, for startups. I still do that today. I submitted a couple things to clients this morning before hopping on this call because I'm a big believer in staying sharp and actually doing the work that you started your business on. I also teach the Freelance Sales Blueprint, which I'm going to chat about a little bit. And the fun stat I like to share about myself is that nearly 100% of my business is inbound. And so that is a lot of my base and how I come to market with freelancing. I don't talk a lot about cold outbound emails and figuring things out that way. I much prefer to set things up so that clients come to me, and it's what I teach other people as well. And I bring up this slide. I certainly don't mean to brag, but more to show you what can be done with freelancing. So when I started in 2017, I actually started in April. So my 2017 income was $0 in March. In 2018 was $300, grew and grew. And by 2021, I actually had my first $20,000 month as a freelancer, as a solo freelancer, just doing my thing. And since then, April and May were similarly good. June and now July is looking like it's going to be a solid month, even though I took 2 weeks off to move across the country. I was living in Toronto downtown. My partner and I bought a 7-bedroom Victorian house in Nova Scotia, and we're turning it into a freelancer B&B. So more on that later, but this is a bit about my business success and what I mean when I say I've figured out a couple things as a freelancer, and that's what I hope to share with you. So the easiest thing that I can do in our time together, because we only have 40-ish minutes, is to just tell you how I did it. So I am just going to share the exact frameworks that I used, the problems that I faced and how I solved them. And my hope is that you can take that and either apply the frameworks to figure out how you might get started in freelancing, which is actually section one, identifying your monetizable skill set, and then your one-liner, talking about pricing yourself. So you can actually turn this into a business instead of just a skill that you're interested in. Finding your first clients, and then talking about the Freelance Sales Blueprint course. And my goal with our talk today is to give you a foundation, hopefully a little bit of inspiration as well. But if I can't inspire you, I can at least give you some information that you can use with your business. And so the first thing I said, we're going to be practical AF here. I'm just going to dive right in and start with identifying your monetizable skill set. And it sounds weird to say monetizable skill set because a lot of people think about freelancing as a way to live your passion and a way to make great money with a lot more freedom and control. And both of those things are fully accurate. I make more money as a freelancer than I did working as an employee, and I'm working far fewer hours. And I can do it from anywhere with a laptop. I've run my business throughout Europe and across Canada, the United States, while visiting family. But all of that starts with something a little less glamorous, and that is your monetizable skill set. That is the thing that you are going to do to make money. And that thing can be anything. It can be writing, like what I do, can be design, development, other forms of engineering, other forms of creative creation, strategy, coaching, training. There's a lot of things you can do, but we have to identify that skill set. So this section is if you are just getting started and you're thinking, well, maybe this could work for me, or maybe you've even helped a little bit and you're wondering, is this actually sustainable? The first framework I want to explain here is the skill set versus knowledge set framework. On the left hand, we're starting with education. And this is the thing that you are good at doing. So when I started my freelance business, it actually started a little bit as a fluke. I had tried to start a startup. The startup was a nearly unmitigated failure. The only mitigation was that I wrote some of my own content marketing, and those blogs got some attention. And that actually led to someone literally saying, I love your writing. Can I pay you to write for me? And I was like, I am broke from this failed startup. So absolutely. Yeah, Danielle, Diversity, the name of my startup that failed. Thank you for that, Danielle. Really appreciate it. And then on the other side is this notion of passion. And that would be the special things you know about. So when I started freelancing, the only thing that I had experience in was the startup world, because I had tried to start my own. I had been to God knows how many tech events throughout Toronto and Southern Ontario. And I just knew the startup world. I knew how founders thought. I knew a thing or two about what venture capitalists looked for. And I understood that the Toronto ecosystem, especially where I was living at the time, was growing. So when I first started freelancing, all I said was, I am a writer for startups. That's it. I'll figure out anything else. I didn't know if I was going to write blogs or research papers or white papers or social media or landing pages or email. All I knew is that the only value that I could really offer and charge for was startups. Because if you tried to put me in a hospital, I wouldn't know what I was doing. A law firm, I wouldn't know what I was doing. A bank, I wouldn't know what I was doing. So while I didn't know exactly what I was going to write, I couldn't confidently say, I'm an email conversion copywriter. I started with, I write because that's what I do, and I can do it for startups because that's what I know. So if you are new to freelancing or you're thinking about it and you're like, I don't even know how would I stand out? How would I compete? How would I start? How do I even talk about myself? Start with this framework. Think about what can you do? And that can be any skill that you would normally have gotten a full-time job for, or a skill that you have trained on. And then what is special to you? What is your passion or your unique interest that might be able to help you in business or connect you into businesses in that space? The next framework is the Good at Network Budget Matrix. And so let's say that you have an idea of what you do and who you do it for. So writing for startups would be my own example. And with this framework, you can then plug that in and say, okay, it's not just all startups, but startups that need a writer. So if you have an in-house writer, you probably don't need to hire me. If you have no budget, then you probably don't need to hire me, which is the next piece. Does the decision maker actually have budget for this project? As a note to just show you how lo-fi you can start with freelancing. When I first figured out my passion education framework, the framework number one, I would just start telling people I'm a freelance writer for startups. And they would say, well, what do you write? And I would respond, no joke, what do you have budget for? Because of course, you can't get anything done if there's no money, because this is a business. So that's why that next piece is, what does the decision maker have a budget for? Then we get to that third piece, is who can you actually access? So if you do not have access to VPs of marketing somehow, then you probably can't sell to them. And if you don't have access to whoever you might need, whether that's a CEO, whether that's a VP of marketing, a head of HR, or just an individual, if you're selling individual coaching or training services, if you don't have access to them, you can't find it. So what you can do is reverse engineer. Instead of getting concerned that you might not have access to someone you want to sell to, think about who you already have access to, and then ask if they need what you are good at, and then see if they have a budget for that project. That can be a really useful way to get to the first dollar. Maybe it's not your ideal. Maybe it's not exactly what you want to do as a freelancer. Frankly, most people when they start out don't necessarily know exactly unless they're coming into freelancing from a long corporate career and they're really seasoned in what they do. But if you're coming at this a little more fresh, or maybe you're considering a change, you don't like where your career trajectory was headed, think network first, then think about your skill set, and then finally check for budget. So I'll pause really quickly and say, by the way, if you do have questions as I'm talking, write them in the chat. I actually have it open in the bottom left of my screen, so I can either address it live or at the very least make sure that I jump back to it later on. So this can definitely be a more interactive, ask your questions, happy to chat about it type of conversation. Then we actually get to our one-liner, which is an interesting concept. I'm not going to claim that I invented it. That would be way too ego forward. But I started calling it a one-liner because I actually needed to train myself to not say any more than one sentence. And this is the one-liner. It is the easy to remember and easy to repeat phrase that tells people what you do as a freelancer. And it can't really be more than one sentence, because if it's too long, it won't be easy to remember or easy to repeat. And further, it only has to be good enough. If it's too comprehensive, it will not be easy to remember or easy to repeat. So what I mean by that is, if I actually was very comprehensive, I wasn't just a freelance writer for startups, because I had also written content for mid-sized companies, for non-tech companies, for governments, for big companies. I also had done more than just writing. I did some content strategy. I did editing. But if I talked about that every time I met someone, then they would have no idea what the heck I did at the end of it, because they would listen and listen and listen, and I'd run through my whole thing, and they'd say, oh yeah, that's really nice. And then they'd either have forgotten half of what I said, or they'd get the words garbled, and then there goes any chance of that person referring business to me, because they don't know what I do. So another way to think about the one-liner, if easy to remember and easy to repeat is a little too off or inconsistent, think about it as giving people the language that you want them to use to talk about you. And Simone, I just saw in your chat, there will actually be a recording available after, so you can catch up on the first few minutes here, but there's still plenty to go. Don't worry, you haven't missed it all. But with the one-liner, when you give someone the language that you want them to use, it becomes really, really convenient for them to not only refer business to you, but just talk about you in the way that you want to be talked about. And here is how you actually get a one-liner going. There are a few different ingredients. You have what you actually do, writing, design, etc. You have the person that you do it for, whether that's a type of business or a specific type of person, the outcome that you deliver, and then how you differentiate from other people. And by the way, normally when I work with folks, we would kind of stop here and work through each of these individual pieces. Now, for the sake of this talk, I unfortunately can't stop, much as I would love to do like 10, 20-minute activities with everyone. So what I want you to do is start to think of these, maybe write the bullet point down in your notes, and budget out some time for yourself, 10 to 20 minutes, to write out the answer to these ingredients. I'm going to show you on the next slide what a completed one-liner looks like. But if you write down these notes and then make some time to do it for yourself, this is going to be incredibly impactful. Not only will it actually help you solidify those first two frameworks that I showed you, but it will also help give you the foundation of a referral business. As I mentioned, nearly 100% of my business is referral-based and inbound, and that is not an accident. It's because for years, I have been giving the market the language that I want them to use when they talk about me. So now it's just becoming commonplace. To anyone who already knows me and they hear Stefan, they think, oh yeah, he's a freelance writer for startups and he coaches freelancers on how to grow their business. Really easy stuff to remember, very basic words that comes in handy later. And I'll explain that when we start talking about referrals and partnerships in this presentation. So here's the one-liner formula. As a strict formula, it's you saying, I am a freelance skill for ideal clients and kind of in brackets, helping them to achieve something. The one that I use, I'm a freelance writer for growing companies, helping them to create growth campaigns. So usually, when I'm just doing a super quick introduction, I'll only say that first bit. I'm a freelance writer for growing companies. Because that's going to be easy to remember, easy to repeat. It's good enough. It will tell you largely what I do. And then if you are curious, you will ask for more information. And that's actually a way to figure out if someone's a potential client. Because if you say what you do and people say, oh, that's nice, and move on, then they either don't care, which is fine, or they just don't need your help right now. But if someone's really curious about what you do, there might be a potential that they need to hire you or need to hire someone, and that could be you. And then you'll notice at the bottom of the slide, I say the point of differentiation, which you know, but you don't say it in your spoken one-liner. So for me, I always focus on connecting content to business goals because I came from the startup world. I know that everything that a startup does has to tie to revenue at some point or it's going to fail. So that has been my real differentiator. I could walk into a startup, virtually speaking, and say, look, I know the challenges you're facing broadly. I may not know your specific challenges. We can figure that out. But I know the concepts that you are trying to accomplish here, and I can help you. Now, the reason why you don't say that initially is because of that comprehensiveness rule. If you get too comprehensive, then people will not remember it, they will not repeat it, and then it doesn't actually spark creativity because you've given them everything, kind of verbal word vomit, to use a Mean Girls phrase. Yeah, given a little bit of word vomit, and they now have nowhere to go. But if you give them little bits, I'm a freelance writer for growing companies. Oh, interesting. What do you do? I help create growth campaigns. Fun. You know, what is it about you that makes you good at this? It's like, well, interesting that you ask. I came from the startup world. So I understand the challenges. I understand that content needs to tie to revenue, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And suddenly you're having a conversation that's two-way instead of just saying, this is what I do, please hire me. Because I can tell you right now, that is not going to work. So now, after we go through all of this fun thing, we actually have to price ourselves. And talking about pricing is a very tenuous thing sometimes, because I'll tell you right now, I'm a huge believer in not talking about pricing on sales calls. And the reason I say that is because sales is not about selling a specific thing for a specific price. It's about solving a problem. And money via your prices is just the vehicle to get a problem solved. And if it's the only focus of a conversation, it activates the part of people's brains that makes them think, is that price worth it? You know, or is it too expensive? Versus, am I going to accomplish the solution I need? And then money is the way that that solution the wheels are greased, so to speak. So there are 3 pricing formulas that you can use. If you're just getting started with your freelancing and thinking, I don't want to bill hourly because that's going to be really irritating and I need to bill $300 an hour to earn what I want. First of all, I'm right there with you. I absolutely hated pricing hourly because it pitted my client against me. And this is actually something you can bring up if you find yourself talking to a potential client that asks for hourly rates. You can say, look, when I price hourly, I'm incentivized to work slowly. You are incentivized to get me to work as fast as possible. Neither of those incentivize us to come up with the best possible outcome. And the thing about freelancing is that a business only hires a freelancer to achieve an outcome. And if you can't do that, then you're not going to have a good business. But it's also not always your fault if you can't do that, if you have something like an hourly pricing mechanism working against you. So these are the 3 pricing formulas that I have used myself, as well as coached other freelancers to use when I've worked with them through the Freelance Sales Blueprint course. And the first one is the time to outcome formula. This is pretty standard. You take an hourly rate, you take how long it takes you to complete a task, and thus you get an outcome price. For example, if you're a writer and writing a blog takes about 4 hours, and you want to earn $100 an hour, okay, a blog post costs $400. The difference here, because you might be thinking, wait a minute, isn't that basically just an hourly rate, is twofold. One, you don't communicate the hourly rate. You tell a client the price is $400. You just happen to know on the back end that it's a 4-hour project, $100 an hour. The other thing is when you leave an outcome price, and that's all you share with the client, you accrue the financial benefits of efficiency. So if you become a faster writer, then suddenly it only takes you 3 hours to do that blog post instead of 4. Okay, well, you're still going to charge $400, and suddenly your hourly rate shoots up. So when you work on an outcome price basis, you get all the efficiency gains from a financial perspective, and your client gets all the efficiency gains from an outcome perspective, because they're still getting a blog post and potentially getting a better blog post when you become a stronger writer. And they're actually getting now more for the same price. So they get value, you get value. If you were working hourly on the same arrangement, you would actually lose value for becoming more efficient, and that's not helpful for anybody. If you aren't sure what your hourly rate is or what you want to earn, maybe you're just starting out, you can do a market rate match. And that's pretty standard. You just do a whole bunch of Googling. You look up what the common rates are for your type of freelance work, which you will have identified from your 2 frameworks and then creating your one-liner. And then you just match the average. So if you talk to a few different writers and then Google freelance writing, and they're all charging, an average of $400 for a blog post, great. You charge that too to start. You'll eventually learn as you get more clients, as you figure out your unique method of working, that maybe your price needs to be a little higher, or maybe even needs to be a little lower than the average, depending on what you're offering and also the type of work that you want. Because you can still earn amazing money charging slightly lower rates if you're able to work on volume and you like working on volume. But if you want the high value, take your time with it, creative endeavors of freelancing, that can pay plenty of money, but you're also going to be spending a lot of your time and energy doing it. So it's not always about increasing your rates. It's more about figuring out the type of business that you want to run as an individual freelancer. The third pricing formula that you can use is the 2.5x employment. So this basically, as you can see on the slide, you start with what a full-time employee would earn for your work. And let's say that's $50,000 a year would be the salary. You bring that down to an hourly rate, works out to about $25-ish an hour. You then double that, so $50 an hour, let's say, and then add 25% for the sake of taxes, miscellaneous expenses, and just kind of giving yourself a buttress of just a little more money, because it's not going to change much to the client outcomes, but could change a lot for you over time. So you get it up there. I do apologize, my back of the hand math is not that strong, but 50 plus 25%, you're earning around, I think, $62.50 an hour, and then that becomes your rate, which you can then put into the hourly rate to outcome price formula. And you say, okay, 62.5 times 10 hours for a project, I'm going to charge $625 for this project as an outcome. So you can start to mix and match and stack these formulas as you go, but write down these formulas for yourself, because if you find yourself considering a freelance project and aren't really sure where to go, these 3 formulas are going to give you great starting rates. They will help you get going, because the key is for you to just have a number so that you can quote someone and move on and get a signed contract. I can promise you that your rates are going to change. I can also promise you that you are going to have a couple clients where this rate, whatever it works out to be from these formulas for you, is going to feel amazing. You're going to feel rich. You're almost going to feel like you're taking advantage of your clients, until you realize, of course, you're going to deliver great work and it's okay. But I can also promise that you are going to have a moment where you have a really annoying client and the rate that you quoted them is going to feel like dirt. And it's going to feel like you are not getting paid anywhere near where you should be for the work that you're doing. And all I want to say is, when you have those moments, 2 things. Feel those feelings, because they're actually going to tell you something. Investigate what's going on. Are you feeling horrible because the project wasn't scoped properly? Are you feeling horrible because the client keeps asking for extra phone calls? Those types of things are actually really, really good insight for you as you build your freelance business, because at the end of the day, you are independent, even if you work with other freelancers or contractors. So you want to listen to those emotions. Don't avoid them. It's going to be a little painful and you're going to feel a little stupid, but it's okay. Learn from it. You won't make the mistake again. And then the second part is to just know that it's going to happen. I'm telling you now, it's going to happen. So when it does, don't think that you're a failure. Don't think that you're doing freelancing wrong. Don't think that this is never going to work for you. Breathe through it. It is absolutely painful. I can tell you right now, this happened to me. I did these formulas and the number came out to be fine, or so I thought. And then I got paid, I think, $50 for a blog post. And at face value, I was very happy with that. $50, it was fine, gonna earn some money, until I realized that to write that post, I had to watch an hour-long talk that was 45 minutes away from my apartment, that I then had to go back to the talk to get specific quotes. And the whole thing actually took me like 7-8 hours total when you factored in all the travel, the talk, and the writing. So I was earning less than minimum wage. So you start to realize I kind of kicked myself a little bit, but you move on, you get it going, and keep going from there. Then we get finding first clients. And I know that we are going through this blazingly fast. So just bear with me. This stuff is a lot in one talk. I toyed with only doing the very, very beginning, but I wanted to give you a view throughout the whole process, going from, I think I want to start this, to, oh, I have a signed contract and I have revenue coming in the door. That was my point here, my goal here. So bear with. I know that we are going quickly through this, but I want to give you the information so you can let it simmer. First, personal website. The screenshot here of Aaron's website is all you need to start. I had a website that looked just like this for my first 3 years of freelancing. And in my first 3 years of freelancing, I earned over $150,000, I think. You do not need more than this to start. You need more than this to scale, but you do not need more than this to start. You only need 3 things. Clearly introduce who you are. You can see on the screen here, hi, I'm Aaron, freelance writer and video producer. Explain what you do with examples if you have them. So if you're a writer and you can share a couple examples or at least describe the types of writing that you do, fantastic. And then make it easy for people to get in touch with you. Erin has a contact form on her website. It may not be the absolute prettiest thing in the world, but it works if someone wants to get in touch with her. She also has her social media on there. And again, this is a very simple, clean design. She owns her name online. And also for anyone wondering who the heck Erin is a student in my Freelance Sales Blueprint course. She allowed me to use this image. And it's very simple. It gets the job done. She's going to update it relatively soon, but this is already helping her with her brand and just getting more people to realize who she is. And I jump to a comment there from Christine. You mentioned you've been feeling anxious about trying to change the way that you're pricing. Oh, from the employment rate to the outcome rate. Yeah, that is a real struggle. So for anyone who's just starting freelancing, if you're concerned about going from that employment to outcome math, it's tough, but I promise you it's worth it. Because once you start going to that outcome rate, it is really freeing when you realize that you're empowered to get better. Your job actually becomes to get better as opposed to gaming the system. So I'm really happy that you're on that journey right now, Christine. Keep pushing. I promise you, it's going to feel so great. And you can actually just plug that number in. So if you have your employment, your 2.5x employment, plug it into the hourly rate to outcome price formula. See how that feels. You don't have to actually go with that immediately. If you're thinking, oh God, that's just too high, I can't confidently ask for that right now, go a little lower. You're still probably going to make more money and you'll feel more confident. It's the one thing with pricing, because freelancing is such an individual thing. If you can't get to a number that you feel comfortable asking for, even if it's a little stretch, you can push yourself a little. But if you hear a number that's like, what the heck? Don't go for that right now. It's okay to start a little lower. It's not a failure by any means. Making money is a success. We can talk about the details later. So keep going on that. Yeah, Nurjan, for cheap website hosting, the one that I absolutely love is called Card. It's CARRD.co. It's $19 a year for web hosting. It's a no-code builder. The Erin's site actually here is built off of just a very simple card template that she didn't change anything. She just copy and pasted her information off the template. And it is the absolute cheapest, easiest. You can get your website live in 25 minutes. So that's CARRD.co. I'm not an affiliate with them. I just used them for my website and really like the platform and the product. Something like WordPress is definitely the standard bearer if you want to have a blog. But I think too, if you just want to get a website live quick and dirty, use Card, and then you can blog on LinkedIn or Medium or other free platforms. So the other thing I want to say, remember that you are an entrepreneur. Use your good at network and budget matrix. But the other thing is, don't scan the market like a freelancer looking for a job. Scan the market like a business owner looking for a problem to solve. Because even though you are, as my dad would say, the chef, cook, and bottle washer, you are the person doing head of sales. You are your own head of customer success. You are your own delivery manager. Think of it as those roles, though. Think of it as I'm inhabiting my sales hat today, my delivery hat. And the thing is, you want to really be easy to work with. Make it easy to book a call with you by using technology and email scripts. Run the call, have an agenda with questions that is an enjoyable journey. In the Freelance Sales Blueprint, I call this the wave. When you take someone on this like lovely, lazy river journey that starts with how's it going today and ends with, so I'm going to send you a proposal. You want to share simple proposals. I just use email-based proposals. I've never used a proposal generation software for my entire freelance business. Just a simple email. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm going to charge. You into it? They say yes. Then send them a proper contract because you need to be legally protected, but accept digital signatures. This is something I didn't do when I was first starting. I would send a contract and be like, great, can you sign it? And they're like, I guess I can print this and then take a picture, like, thanks. Make it really, really easy to work with you because you are an entrepreneur. You never want someone to say, I'm literally trying to give you my money. Why aren't you making it easy? So, and I posted this tweet and ends with, so many freelancers are hard to work with. Don't be like them. And that is 100% true and honest. I don't mean to be rude to those freelancers, but there are a lot of people who are difficult to work with. And if you can just be easy to work with, you will close deals. That was actually how I closed my first 10 clients. I actually showed up to the call. And in 4 instances, they told me that they tried to talk to other freelancers who ghosted their calls. Literally all I had to do was show up. So make sure that you get that done. And I want to pull back really quickly and say, if I'm going through this and you're thinking, holy crap, how the heck do I do this? I don't know all the information yet. I do not know how to do this. I need help. Yeah. I just want to say that we're kind of on step 1 here. That's why I wanted to give you all these frameworks in rapid succession, because I wanted you to have the key frameworks that you need to know. If you choose not to take the Sales Blueprint course and you just kind of do your own thing, these frameworks will help you. If you want to get more in-depth knowledge, that's step 2 in the course. And then with step 3 is actual implementation support. So if you are watching this going, good Lord, this is a lot. I know how you feel. The things that I'm sharing took me 3 years to learn, but they can be learned much faster than that with implementation support. So if you are curious to learn more, you can check out freelancesalesblueprint.com. But in the meantime, we're going to keep going here. So the first thing we're going to find clients is referrals and partnerships, because once you have a really clean one-liner and once you have a good website and some easy ways to get in touch with you, these are going to be 2 of your most powerful early client finders. Right here, we've got just quick definitions. When someone introduces you as a solution to someone else's problem, that is a referral. And the key here is to build community. A partnership is when you give someone value in exchange for them delivering you warm leads, or in some cases, fully closed clients. And that's flow through. So really quick, an anatomy of a referral. So you start here with initial trust. Someone trusts you, that they know what you do. They think that it's cool. They trust your honesty. Then they learn about the actual work you do, the solutions you provide. They are then talking to someone else, and that person says, I've got a problem. For instance, I need content. Then the person one says, wait a minute, I know Stefan. Stefan does content. And that's when they mention you as a potential solution to person two's problem. An introduction is then made, and you close a deal with person two. So you have this trust relationship base that turns into a referral, and it's supported by your one-liner. Because when you have a one-liner that's easy to remember and easy to repeat, it is a lot easier for someone to refer you. Vivian, you asked about other than DocuSign. Yeah, so I use PandaDoc, just as a quick aside, for contracts. Their contract signature module is actually free. So it's 100% free. When you sign up for PandaDoc, they're going to put you on a paid trial. Don't worry about it. Tell the support team you want to be on the free plan, because that includes unlimited signatures. So pandadoc.com, I believe, is it. And it's a great platform that I use for all of my clients. And you use that when you close a deal with person two, because of this wonderful introduction that has been made. But then we get the anatomy of a partnership, and it actually looks really similar, but there's a distinct difference. So person one, their network has a need. So for example, I'll walk this through with a real example of one of my clients. They are a venture capitalist. So they make investments into startups, and their startups have a wide variety of needs. One of them, in my case, is content. So my client, this venture capitalist, this partner of mine, we created a deal where I have a specialized offering just for his startups. It's a piece of content that he advises all of his startups to get. And I said, okay, I'm going to give you a special rate. It's going to be a little bit lower than if they walked in on the street. And I'm going to give them priority access. If you tell your companies to reach out to me, I'll put them in the front of the line because you and I have a relationship. That person, my partner, venture capitalist, now gets to go to his entire portfolio company and offer this value and say, hey, look, you need to get this done. I have secured a trusted writer and a better rate than you're going to get if you try to do this yourself. Just call Stefan. And then in that case, I actually didn't even have to take sales calls. I would actually just wake up to emails of people saying, I want to take advantage of this offer. I want to take advantage of this offer. And you might be thinking that that sounds a lot like an affiliate relationship. And in many ways it does. But the difference here is that this venture capitalist is duty bound to provide value to his portfolio. So I was able to provide that value. So he gets social credibility, looks great to his portfolio company. I get business. Everyone wins. And those startups get a discount, and they don't have to worry about vetting freelancers. They can just focus on their work. So crafting a referral and a partnership ask. If you know what your ideal customer needs, you present it for a referral as, hey, if you know anyone who needs this, I'd be happy to take a call with them and see if I can help them. So it is an offer to help, not an ask for a favor. And same thing with partnerships. It's, hey, I know that your network needs this. If you're open, I can offer this kind of value, direct access, discount, whatever, to make it easy for me to help you solve your network's problems. Again, for both of these, the key is to make the other person the hero. Make the person who refers you business the hero. Make the partner the hero. Help them gain social credibility by referring you business. Because if you think of business as solving problems, then sales is just the process of diagnosing a problem and seeing if you can offer the solution. And if you can, then offer it. And then, like I said earlier in this presentation, money via your price is just a vehicle to get a solution delivered. It's not this high energy thing. It's really quite boring at the end of the day. It's, you have a problem, I have a solution, there's a gap, that gap is filled with money. There you go. And if you make someone else the hero, then they bring you customers very happily. So finding your first few clients, I want to share 3 methods that I teach in the Sales Blueprint course that have been wonderfully helpful for me as well as for other freelancers. First one, it's called the hand raise on social. And Simona, I'm going to respond to your question right after. So the hand raise on social is follow your economic buyer on social media, digitally raise your hand when they post a call out. So here's an example. Hunter is the CMO of a company. He said, hey, I need content. And I just responded. I was like, sure, I do content. This was in the middle of 2020. So we got on a call, we did it. And they've been a part-time client working maybe 3 to 5 hours a month. And I now earned over $12,000 just with them alone, on top of every other client that I'm working with. And the reason this works really well is twofold. One, because by the time someone posts on Twitter, usually they're relatively desperate and willing to work with you. But the other hack that I really like algorithmically on Twitter, but other social media platforms as well, is if you tag other people and in relevant opportunities for them, then you're actually training the algorithms to show you content of people posting job postings or people posting call outs for freelancers. So the more you help others, the more you're showing Twitter that you engage with that kind of content. And Twitter's algorithm is geared to show you content it thinks you will engage with. So don't be afraid to hand raise on social. I also followed up this tweet with a DM. So always be proactive, again, be easy to work with, but it can really work. Simona, your question of offering value to a network. So you can either offer a price lever, so a discount. You can offer an access lever, so either exclusive service or a value add, or you can access a flow through lever of making the whole process easier. So for example, as a freelance writer, I custom scope with all of my clients because they need different types of content. But with this venture capitalist, I did a really easy Q&A almost onboarding document so that the startups could get through the process so quickly. And that was really, really valuable because, of course, startups have limited resources and limited time. So by being able to say, hey, venture capitalists, if your startups fill out this 5-question questionnaire, I will return the valuable piece of content that you need. Boom, it was easy. So if none of those frameworks fit instantly in your situation, the other thing to think of is what does a partner have to provide to their network? So a venture capitalist pretty much has to provide startup services to their portfolio companies. Money is too cheap these days. A VC has to add value. If you're trying to go to another type of partner, for instance, a B2B2C, working with a research company to offer services to their clients, think about what they have to offer their network. What value do they have to provide? And then think about what you might be able to do to fill that value gap, basically. The other strategy that is a really easy one to start, super simple. There are so many newsletters that send out customized opportunities that you can apply to. And you can either ask for a call or fill out a form and see what happens. It is the absolute easiest to start because all you have to do is Google and say, type of work, freelance opportunities newsletter. Writer Finder and Growth Machine are 2 examples if you're in the marketing space, content, Facebook ads, etc. It is a little bit annoying because so many of the applications are black boxes. You apply and then you have no idea if it's going to work. And also some of these newsletters have tens of thousands of subscribers. So you're going to apply and be one of 1,000 applicants. But it is a way, if it doesn't work for actually finding you clients, it's an interesting way to see who is hiring for what, which you can then take as a data input on your social media, or in your other reach outs. And when you're talking to other potential clients, bring up these trends, if you will, of like, oh, it's very interesting. A lot of people are doing content about this topic, et cetera, et cetera. So it helps to fill out your conversation a little bit more. And then one of the other ones that you can definitely try is job hacking on LinkedIn. So setting up a job search on LinkedIn but actually looking for full-time jobs, not for freelance opportunities. You can also use LinkedIn to specifically identify freelance opportunities, but the job hacking method is an interesting one because you start with jobs, but then you can actually ask people if they're willing to take on a freelancer while they fill a role. Or in some cases, actually just becoming a freelance hire instead of a full-time role. This is something that I have actually done a couple times. The odd time that I do an outbound is usually through this job hacking method, where I'll be really curious about a company and it's a type of project that I really want to work on, or I'll see a job description and be like, ooh, I want to do that. And I'll just reach out and say, hey, I noticed that you're recruiting. I know this is a difficult role to hire for. Would you be interested in a freelance gig until you hire? Like, hire me for a month. I'll produce some content for you, whatever works. I've done this twice now to good success. One was a great project, and they said, awesome, we're done. We have hired someone, so we're not going to renew your freelance contract as we already agreed on, but thank you so much. And it was great. I had a wonderful time, cool team. We stayed in touch. And then the person who brought me on moved on to another company and remembered me and brought me on at that next company as a more long-term freelancer. So it can work there. But then I've also had the opposite happen, where it started as supposed to just be a part-time thing. And then as I started going, they actually stopped recruiting for the role because trying to find their full-timer was getting so irritating, and I was providing enough value that they realized they didn't really need a full-time role. They just needed a lot of help. And their mindset was that only full-timers could provide that value. And it was a fair assumption based on some past experience for them. But I was able to show up and say, hey, look, no, I can actually provide value for you, and do it in a freelance way. So you're saving a bit of money, don't have to hire that full-time employee. And we've been working together now for quite some time. So it's not just about doing the one-off projects and hoping for the best. You might actually get yourself to a situation where you are turning a company into kind of a believer when it comes to freelancing and bringing you on in a long-term part-time capacity. So really powerful. Don't sleep on this one because it can be really, really impactful. And if you don't want to go it alone, if you have listened to all this and thought, okay, great, that's nice, Stefan, you seem half decently intelligent, but I don't want to do this alone. I am freaking the heck out. That's where the Freelance Sales Blueprint course can come in handy. This is a course that I developed based on my years of experience as a freelancer, and it is solely focused on getting you started and scaling with a really supportive community. The program itself is 6 weeks, but you have lifetime access to that course content and live weekly Q&A calls. They're actually on Wednesdays. So just today, I went through a proposal template with someone in the course. We talked all about exactly how to word a proposal for a massive project that she had never quoted that big before. And it's all about that type of support. It's setting you up for success. I talked about 3 ways to fill your funnel here today. We actually talk about over 15 in the course. And I also teach a specific, really powerful agenda that I call the wave to make sure that you're leading a call that is enjoyable, a sales call that's actually fun for everyone. And then there's a lovely supportive community of freelancers from all around the world to help you along the way, but also celebrate your success. So that's what I've got to share today. We have a few more minutes for questions. Does anyone have any specific questions that I can answer now? I know that there have been a couple throughout the conversation so far.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Stefan. That was so insightful. Actually, I'm getting a question here through the private chat. So is there a common pattern that you're seeing amongst freelancers? So if you can do like a stop, start, and continue, or maybe start, stop, continue, what would that be?
Yeah, fair. So for start, stop, continue, I always tell freelancers if they aren't pricing on outcomes, start. Because like I said in the presentation, hourly pits you against your clients. You don't want that. And also pits you against your own pocketbook. We don't want that. Stop thinking that any freelancer is your competition, because no freelancer is a competition. I promise that. Even freelancers who do the exact same thing as you are not. So for example, I'm a freelance writer for startups. One of my friends is also a freelance writer for startups. And it's fantastic because her and I have slightly different personalities. Vivian leaving for a potential client. Enjoy the meeting. I hope you closed your client. And what I was saying was she writes for startups as well. And it's been so fantastic because if I don't have capacity, I know that I can trust her. I can send her business. She's done the same to me. But then also, when you know what your focus is, if someone's not a fit for me, she might be a great fit for them as a freelancer. So never think of anyone as your competition. They're really not. And then continue your own professional development because you don't have a boss doing it for you. And there is a whole lot of competition nipping at your heels. And the only way to be competition proof is to continually improve.
I love that learning on just like continuously learning and being a lifelong learner there. I especially like what you said about like feel your feelings when you are kind of going through those emotions and trying to figure out, okay, what is this feeling actually going to turn into like an insight? So I really love that. One question that I always love asking experts is what is the worst advice that you have ever received when you were either starting your freelance career or that you're getting now as someone who's into this sphere?
So I've received a decent amount of bad advice. I was gonna say hourly rates, but I've said that to death. So I've got another piece of bad advice for everyone. And it was someone told me that freelancing can't be long-term and can't actually be a road to setting up for personal wealth, buying investments, retirement. That is bad advice. One, because it's not true, because you can earn fantastic money freelancing, and a lot of people report that freelancing earns them more than a full-time job. But the other one is I don't like the mindset that it gives you, because it ties into this mindset that freelancing is just a short-term thing that you do in between jobs, and you're going to get a real job eventually, right? Because if you tell someone that freelancing can't help them with their long-term financial goals, then you're basically telling them that they need to go get a job eventually if they actually have long-term financial goals, which we all should have. So that's probably the worst piece of advice that I got, is to think about it short-term. Freelancing can be a really long-term sustainable endeavor.
I love that. Well, that actually just brings us right up to
there you go.
The 1 hour mark. So thanks again so much, Stefan, for joining us and dropping all of this great wisdom on freelancing. Definitely. We will be sharing this replay sometime next week. So if you have to hop off, no worries. And thanks so much again for joining everybody here. And Stefan, really, really glad that you were here to be here today.
Thanks for having me. And if any folks want to get in touch, you can find me on Twitter at Stefan Palios. Is my most active. DMs are open. Come say hi.
All right. Well, hope you have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you around. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.